Ever heard of a criminal who writes their own rulebook? Well, today we're diving into the life of a guy, calls himself London's craziest gangster, Mr. Fish.
Catchy name.
Right. But get this, he's a bank robber, dresses in drag, loves Andy McNabb. The whole thing is wild.
Definitely not your average criminal.
Not even close.
Oh.
And we're getting all this straight from him, told his story on Sean Atwood's true crime podcast, No Filter.
Sounds juicy.
Oh, it is. But before we jump into the crazy heist and prison tales, gotta set the scene right. There's Mr. Fish, what makes him tick.
Always key, understanding the psychology behind the actions.
Exactly. And from what I gathered, it was all about challenging the system, proving he was smarter, more cunning. Almost like this intellectual game to him.
See that a lot, not just about the money or power, but that thrill of outsmarting everyone, beating the odds.
And nothing screams that louder than his most insane heist. The armed robbery in drag.
Okay, that got my attention.
He went after this town hall, one of the most secure buildings around, surrounded by police stations, guards everywhere. He wanted the challenge.
Bold strategy.
Mr. Fish in a nutshell. So where does he get the inspiration for this? Naomi Campbell and, wait for it, Andy McNabb.
That's a combination I wouldn't have predicted.
Neither would I. He's reading one of McNabb's books, right? Trying to figure out how to get past security, all these checkpoints. Then, bam, he reads about this attack, using women for missions, especially when men would stick out.
Clever, exploiting those unexpected vulnerabilities.
Light bulb moment.
Oh.
He gets silicone implants, a wig, the works, transforms himself into, as he calls it, a great big pink gangster.
I can only imagine.
His plan. Disarm him with humor, make him laugh. And it worked. He waltzed right past security.
The power of distraction, even when you think you're on high alert.
Exactly. But here's the Mr. Fish twist. It wasn't the crime that got him caught. It was his mouth.
Let me guess, he couldn't help himself.
Nope. He's got the money, about to make a clean getaway, when one worker finally realizes what's up. He planned to say something like, my house is getting repossessed, downplay the whole thing.
Makes sense. Keep it low-key.
But he gets flustered, panics, threatens the worker, and runs.
Impulsivity strikes again.
Classic Mr. Fish. Ends up getting caught, slapped with a 99-year sentence, and his reaction, 99 years. Could be worse. There's people doing natural life. Might as well enjoy it.
Wow, talk about making the best of a bad situation.
That's Mr. Fish for you. And that little glimpse right there, that's the perfect intro to his whole approach to prison life. Because if anyone knew how to not just survive, but thrive in that environment, it was him. The guy had a whole philosophy for prison, like some weird self-help guide, how to thrive behind bars,
Makes sense, though. Survival instincts kick in, finding ways to cope, hold on to some sense of control.
Right. And he wasn't shy about sharing this wisdom, especially with new inmates, like a mentor.
Interesting. Even in that environment, humans seek connection, purpose.
Totally. And his advice was surprisingly practical, like no posters on the walls, keep all your stuff tucked away in a box.
Smart less is more in prison, less to be targeted, less for someone to use against you.
He was big on that, avoiding those power games.
Which are everywhere inside, can't escape it.
And at the top of that power structure, the guards, his second rule, always be respectful to them.
Interesting, playing the long game.
Oh, absolutely. He'd be all cheerful, greeting them with good morning, even though he's the one locked up.
Pick your battles.
He told this story. Guard asked him once, why so happy? I'm stuck here, you're getting out. Mr. Fish, without missing a beat, goes, well, you're one day closer to retirement, and I'm one day closer to release.
That's brilliant. Disarming humor probably earned him some favors, too.
Definitely. But even knowing the rules, prison's unpredictable. Things change. He learned that the hard way, messing with the pecking order in the yard.
Ah, the Yarg microcosm of the whole system.
So in one prison, Wandsworth, everyone walked in these circles, specific paths, like a target, most powerful inmates in the center.
Visual representation of the hierarchy.
Exactly. But it gets transferred, new place, different rules. Muslim group was running things, no more circles.
Uh-oh, recipe for disaster.
Right. Mr. Fish, oblivious, bumps into someone while walking, tells the guy off. Turns out it's one of the leaders of this group.
Oops. Wrong guy to mess with.
Understatement. He knew he messed up. They were giving him the look. But then gets weirder. He gets in a fight, and the only one who helps, a white inmate he knew.
Alliances shifting, survival mode.
And get this, the guards. They hesitated, didn't intervene right away.
Power dynamics shifting again. Even the guards have to be careful.
Exactly. So you got this powder keg, right?
Yeah.
But Mr. Fish, he does the unexpected. he becomes a peacemaker.
Really? Didn't see that coming.
Me neither. He talks to the group leaders, appeals to reason, said he's not there to cause trouble, just wants to do his time.
Risky strategy, but it worked.
Somehow, yeah. He reminds them, fighting amongst themselves only makes things worse. They're all stuck there together.
Pragmatic approach. Very strategic.
Right. This violent past, but in prison, he becomes the conflict resolution guy, like his own weird community service. But this peacemaker thing, it went beyond just the big stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He had this way of handling smaller conflicts, too, like this story about a stolen watch.
Let's hear it.
So, inmate gets his watch nicked, something valuable, I guess, and Mr. Fish, being Mr. Fish, decides he's got to fix it.
Sounds about right.
Now, instead of just, roughing the thief up, he cooks up this whole elaborate plan.
Had a flair for the dramatic.
Oh, totally. Starts belting out this ridiculous song, top of his lungs, all about being a proud member of Her Majesty's prison service.
Creating a diversion.
Exactly. Chaos everywhere. Guards rushing in, confusion. And in all that, he swipes the watch back, returns it to the owner.
That's amazing. Talk about resourceful.
He knew how to use those chaotic moments to his advantage.
Definitely a master manipulator.
But he also knew when to stand his ground, especially about who he was. He talks about this time felt like he had to address the elephant in the room, his sexuality.
Prison's not exactly known for being open-minded.
Right. So he calls a meeting, middle of the yard, and just comes out and says it. Look, I'm gay. Problem.
Wow. Bold move.
He knew the risks, but he figured living in fear would make him a target.
Sometimes the best defense is a good offense.
Exactly. And it worked. No one challenged him.
He earned their respect by being upfront.
Like that honesty, that authenticity, it gave him a different kind of power.
Interesting. And that led to him becoming the violence reduction rep.
You got it.
Yeah.
Went from this self-proclaimed gangster to a mediator, advocating for other inmates, even working with the prison staff.
Talk about a turnaround, finding purpose in an unexpected place.
It really makes you think, right? The capacity for change, even in those circumstances.
Definitely. But it also raises the question, what happens when someone like that leaves prison? Can they adapt back to the outside world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And he talks about those struggles, the culture shock, the paranoia. He'd gotten so used to the prison routine, the outside world was overwhelming.
It's like entering a whole new reality.
And his friend Lee, who he talks about, had it even tougher, navigating all the bureaucracy, the stigma of having criminal record.
Highlights the challenges ex-offenders face even after they've served their time.
It's a whole other system to navigate. And it makes you realize we need better support for these guys, help them reintegrate, rebuild their lives.
Absolutely. Everyone deserves a second chance.
Couldn't agree more. And both Mr. Fish and Lee, they did manage to get back on their feet.
How so?
Mr. Fish, he started his YouTube channel, sharing his experiences, kind of a cautionary tale, but also a way to connect with people.
Turning his past into something positive, that's great.
And that's what's so fascinating about his story. He breaks down all these stereotypes about criminals, about prison life.
Shows the complexity, the humanity that exists even in those places.
Exactly. Mr. Fish, he reminds us that everyone has a story. And sometimes the most unexpected people can teach us the most valuable lessons.